Hi and welcome back to the Bitcoin Bridge. Today we are activating Duro Mode. We're getting out our Handcash wallets and we're going to talk to Alex Agut over there in Andorra about the Duro. What is it? Why it's not a token, it's not a stablecoin, it's kind of a marketing exercise, but one that could be very important for Bitcoin in the future. So here's Alex. Alex, thanks for coming on the Bitcoin Bridge today. I know it's been kind of a big 24 hours for you. How's everything?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been crazy. Oh, great. Been having a lot of fun here in Andorra, very peaceful place, and yeah, I'm very happy lately. Very happy.
Do you have your whole team with you in Andorra, or is it just you?
No, Rafa just moved here, but the rest of the team they are spread around the world. So no, they're not here.
Cool. Well, today we're going to talk about Handcash's new initiative. I don't really know what to call it. Is it a branding? Is it an initiative or a campaign called the Duro? Now,
I would say it's a specialized brand for nano payments in apps and games, and we want to focus everything all of marketing efforts, whatever in that particular niche.
right. Now, when I'm speaking to you now, it's been less than a day since you actually launched it, and when people see this interview, it's probably going to be much later on, so they'll have a better idea of how it's been accepted and what's happened. But tell me though, in the last 24 hours, what kind of a response have you got from
We were expecting for this to be way more polarizing than it's been, or maybe it's been polarizing, but you either love it or hate it. But overwhelmingly, people have loved it so far, or at least that's the perception that we got. That's something that we have to be cautious about this, because this might be a response on how much people trust our judgment, our brand, or decision making, whatever. That's kind of a positive for the company, but that's not a validation for the concept itself. So we are going to still stick for the to the 3-phase plan to see if this is a good idea and developers like it and users like it, and we move forward with this.
So have you had a response from people working on other applications, or especially games? Because I know that's one of the markets you're targeting there. Mm-hmm. Have they inquired about how to implement it into their own systems?
Yeah, and so far, Haste said that they were going to use Duros. PayPresto implemented it instantly. We will add it to the PayPresto, and we have the commitment from 3 other apps to actually implement the Duro. And it's very simple. The main reason that is so simple to implement and start using it is because it's not a token. And there were many. We had this idea and this name and almost everything from like 14 months ago. Right, the last CoinGeek, that's presential CoinGeek in London. We already were discussing the idea and the name and all of this in person. But it's something that we wanted first to launch Connect and to regain some of the market that we lost when we started rebuilding Cashport. So we felt this was the time to actually unleash the Duro.
Unleash the Duro. All right, then. Well, speaking of unleashing the Duro, let's just show your intro video to that, just to briefly explain to everyone what it's all about.
Virtual currencies are broken. They only work for their particular game, and they don't have any real-world value. At a time when micropayments only go from your pocket to company's pocket, limiting the actions on online games and social media platforms, the internet is now waiting for something special. Introducing Duro, the first digital currency that works across apps and games. Duro supports instant payments with fees so low we had to come up with a new word for them: nano payments. For the first time ever, we can put a universal price on things that never before had a real-world price, such as game items, social interactions, and reward programs. Simply integrate Duro into apps and games to create horizontal economies among your users and players. Earnings from one app are immediately available to all your connected apps. Since Duro uses tiny fractions of Bitcoin, it has a real-world value which can be used to purchase goods. Join the new era of micropayments by downloading Handcash today. Learn more at duro.money.
So I did see some people arguing about what the name actually meant. And the first thing I did was did a Google search on it just to see if there was anything that, you wouldn't really want popping up every time someone searched for Duro. What I found was that there are a couple of weird things. There's like a scooter, a truck, but what happened mainly was that Google was autocorrecting it to Euro the whole time. I had to do an extra click before it would actually search for Duro. So tell me about the name and where that comes from.
No, it was that may not happen. I think it doesn't happen in Spanish-speaking countries because Duro was an ancient name for kind of what was the name in English? I don't remember right now, but there was basically a silver coin from the Kingdom of Spain that was coin that was called Duro. It was an informal name,
right?
But basically, it was not an official name. And then in 1876 or 1868, I think, Spain started using a coin called peseta. That was the official coin for Spain, currency, I mean. And the 5 pesetas coin was labeled as Duro. And because, it was a traditional name, whatever, but in the end, all that traditionalism got lost and people just used it as a unit, as an informal unit of account, because due to inflation, 1 peseta didn't account for anything. So people were talking things in groups of 5 pesetas, in duros. So instead of 100 pesetas, people were saying 20 duros. And I lived that. I lived that transition from pesetas to duros in 1999 or in 2000. I don't remember right now. But I remember that term, and we thought that the way we wanted to do this grouping things, or this grouping of satoshis, and we also wanted it to be a 5 instead of a direct order of magnitude. I think it meant so much that we could actually pay homage to our Spanish origins of Handcash, and at the same time we paid homage to a legendary, if you say a legendary coin. It was considered hard money at the time, so I think it's a good concept that we are bringing like this kind of concept of hard money to apps and games. This is something that you don't see it right now because everything is made up virtual currencies that they don't have a real world value. And we think that with Bitcoin we have right now the opportunity to create a currency that works in apps and games and actually has a real world value.
So the word duro also means hard in Spanish. Hard as in durable and solid. Yeah. Is that a word you use in daily life much, or is it sort of archaic?
Yeah. No, it's a very frequent word in Spanish.
Right.
Still, yeah.
Excellent. So I think the responses so far have been pretty positive, and I saw you even got a compliment from Jack Lew. I think a compliment from Jack Lew is probably worth about 3 or 5 of everyone else's, because I was expecting him to troll you on it, but he didn't. He actually seemed to approve of the idea.
Well, he trolled a little bit with the Lews or whatever, but no, his comments were no, very positive. And the thing is that he said, what I don't understand or I don't like is that it's 500 instead of 100 or 1,000, because he's talking about the transition from satoshis or whatever. My argument is that we never intended this to be related to a transition from satoshis or BSVs or whatever. We don't see it the same way he does, as the ultimate goal is to use sets. We are building a brand specialized on brands on apps and games, and we don't want to talk about Bitcoin. It's not that we hate Bitcoin or whatever. It's that for us, that we understand marketing and branding, whatever, we think it's kind of an uphill battle to convince people to use BSV, and you start talking about enterprise data, whatever it is, and smart contracts, whatever. When we are only in Handcash, we only care about the money side of it. So I think having a specialized brand for this aspect of BSV is easier to market than having to market all the features and things that you can build with BSV. I think it allows us to focus ourselves, and again, one of the main goals was to stay away from Bitcoin. So it doesn't make sense for us to actually do this as a transition from BSVs to Satoshis or whatever.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? At the same time, in BSV, we've got this legal battle over the name Bitcoin and who has the right to use it. And at the same time, we also realize that, maybe we should be moving away from that word altogether.
I'm of the opinion that we've never had to start that war at any point, because it's branding laws remain undefeated. You cannot change how branding works, because how branding works actually comes from how our brains work, and how do we associate concepts and brands and categories, and that's it's unnatural to actually. No, it's biologically unnatural to actually try to overthrow a brand. It's not possible. So if they kept the brand because brute force or whatever you want to call it, then it is what it is. But I think it's not a battle that we should be doing, because right now the focus, if you see about every time that you see someone discussing BSV on the internet, it's about BTC against BSV and scam coins and these and Satoshi and all this crap. And they're never discussing the actual merits of or benefits or features of this technology. And we see it just as a technology. I don't care if it's called BSV, screwdriver, or whatever it's called. I mean, we want to use it because it's a great technology, but that doesn't mean that we have to fight all that. Oh, we are the original Bitcoin brand or whatever. Nobody cares, and we don't want to. I'm not running a cult. I'm running a company, and I have to make rational decisions. And it's not. We don't see it as a rational decision to keep feeding fire into that battle. Right? It's stupid.
Yeah. I totally agree. Although I am going to go out and register a screwdriver token probably as soon as this interview is over. Well, yeah, just on that track, I think we should clarify that Duro is not a token and it's not a stablecoin. Like there's very little about it that's actually technical. It's more of a branding or a marketing exercise.
It is. Well, we internally said it's a marketing stunt. Basically, it's not. And I think it's a technical feat in a way. Programmers understand that the best line of code is the one you never have to write, because you don't have to maintain it, you don't have to prepare tests for it, whatever. So I think people that are not into the actual development of a complex Bitcoin wallet, we are handling like currently this month, I think past month we handled around 500,000 transactions.
Wow.
And in that month alone. And when you're working at that scale and that fast pace of transactions, you see things from another perspective that people don't actually see. It's very easy to say, hey, stablecoins. So yeah, stablecoins. There are many issues with stablecoins.
It's not as simple as people think. It's not just putting some dollars in a bank and you have stablecoin. No, it's much more complicated. It's regulatory-wise, it's complicated. Then you have to apply for a license. It's not trivial. And also technically, it depends a lot on the protocol you're using. So the good thing about Bitcoin SV is that we have many different token protocols, which I think for different use cases might be much better. For example, I think tokenized should be the number one for for stocks and futures and bonds and all this kind of stuff. There are others that for issuing a quick token might be better. But when we're talking about nano payments and very, very fast paced transactions, it's not as trivial. The reason is that we already know how Bitcoin scales with the UTXOs. We know how to handle UTXOs. We have output bills. We have all these kind of systems for UTXOs. The problem is that stablecoins don't work that way. There are some protocols like STAS or ELAS tokens that they work. They're UTXO based, and that helps in that regard kind of a bit. But still, you still have all the legal issues, and then there are other issues that the issuer wants a cut on every transaction. Then if I send you money, you might want to convert it to yen tokens, and I have euro tokens. So we have to have enough liquidity, conversions, whatever. It's not simple, okay, to do things with stablecoin, and we don't know if it scales the same way that Bitcoin scales. What we know is that with raw Bitcoin, we don't have any of those issues, and payment channels work much better. You can actually do scroll systems, and actually the best thing about this is that we can finally have a universal currency for pricing digital goods and digital actions online, universally. And I think this is creating a new category. And if we were with stablecoins, we just try to do kind of the same thing we have ever had, but a little bit cheaper, probably. I don't know if it could be cheaper, because if you have to add all those, the fee for the issuer, the atomic swap, maybe an insurance fee or whatever. I think if you start adding up all those fees, you start getting into Visa fee territory, maybe, and you might fuck up the nano payments use case. So the thing is that there are many unknowns with stablecoins. It's not as straightforward as people think, at least, and not from the technical or from the legal standpoint.
Yeah, I think it's much simpler if you don't mess around with stablecoins. I think, maybe it's because I'm not a trader. I don't really understand this fully, but I always see it as more of a tool for traders rather than for actual consumers.
In the context of nano payments, for example, it's the day I have the latest transactions that I have in a day right now are 60, 70 transactions, and there are days that I have 400 transactions. With just by connecting to 10, 12 different apps. Yeah. Imagine that at scale. I mean, it's I don't want to be in that mess. I don't want to be in that mess with stablecoins and having to handle all those millions of nano payments. I think it might be doable. We don't know. The thing is that we'll wait and see. And yeah, I think anyways, even if stablecoins are a great idea, I think it doesn't add anything on top of what we already have with Bitcoin. The only problem with using Bitcoin was that it was not user friendly as a currency. Mm-hmm. Was not a currency. It's a currency system. Yeah. So we designed a currency for Bitcoin. Yeah. I think it's kind of a different perspective.
The only reason we're talking about stablecoins and tokens here at all is because some people may confuse the Duro system, with a stablecoin or a token. So we're just trying to make it clear that it's definitely not that. It's raw BSV, but it's just another way of reorganizing the units or rebranding it, giving it a new logo, that kind of thing. Allowing it to exist allowing to use Bitcoin outside of Bitcoin.
So 500 Satoshis is one Duro. Mm-hmm. And the good thing is that as it is just plain BSV, it has a market value. And that means that you can use it everywhere where you can pay with Bitcoin.
When I first saw the concept, it reminded me a little bit of that thing about 20 years ago or so, Swatch Internet Time. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Right. It was a campaign by Swatch to sort of rebrand time in a metric way by dividing the day up into, say, 100, or was it 1 hour or 1 day? I can't even remember. I actually used to have one of these watches. They divided the day up into 100 beats, and they called it internet time, so that, the time 310 would be the same all over the world. And I actually thought it was a really good idea, and I did have one of those watches, and I used to always look at it to see what the time was in Swatch beats, but it never really caught on for some reason. I think it was just, Rebranding Time was just a step too far for a lot of people, but it still does have a lot of fans.
And everybody understands any part of the world for centuries. I think that's kind of a difficult thing to do. But when you're trying to actually build a specialized brand that has a real value, it's not that we are doing a rebranding on BSV, it's that we are trying to create it's not very different from what we did with handles.
Mm-hmm.
With the handles, on the background, it's still, plain legacy addresses. We generate them for you, whatever. We make all the background stuff. We have to send the transaction. If we have to generate new addresses for the output bills or whatever, we do all that complexity in the background, but it's super simple on the front end. So
Right.
We are applying the same concept to actually the currency unit of Bitcoin, at least in the Handcash sphere, I want to call it that way.
Exactly. Well, I guess one thing I did mean to ask you before, and I've seen a few people asking on Twitter, how do you actually activate Dura Mode on your Handcash wallet?
There was an issue with the update, and we had to fix one little thing and send it again to the stores. I think the update should be available later today, if everything goes well. We wanted it to be ready yesterday, of course. You only have to tap on your balance, and then you will see it's below your balance. It says Dura Mode, and it says beta feature or experimental feature or something like that. You toggle it and you toggle it on, and that's it.
I can't wait to see how much I've actually got.
You can go back. And the cool thing is that for the first time in a while, because the first version of Handcash, you could actually swap between sending BCH and your fiat currency.
Yeah.
And we'll remove that for simplicity reasons. We've figured out a way to make it simple enough, and once you have the Dura Mode activated, you can choose between, well, the main mode the main amount would be in Duros, but you can swap it to fiat. And so the cool thing is that you can send 1 Duro, which is 500 Satoshis, which is lower than we've ever been able to send through Bitcoin. We lowered the dust limit to 140 as the miners are accepting this new dust limit already. So for those that were saying that, hey, I want to send in sats or whatever, now you can send in Duros, which it's still much better than sending in sats. At least you can send a smaller amount than you could back then.
Yeah, all good points. And I hope that we come back here in a year's time or even 5 years' time, and people are just talking about Duros as if there was never a time before the Duro. And you can say you were the one who started it. Was it actually your idea, or did someone else mention it to you?
And I don't know if I should tell you, because people might think that I'm crazy. To joke with Rafa that I have some aliens or whatever that whisper me in the ear things while I'm sleeping, and this is something that I just woke up and I had all the branding, the name, everything in mind. It's like I could see it already implemented, and I woke up and I was like, oh shit, this makes so much sense. I'm going to tell Rafa. He might think I'm crazy or whatever, but it's been like that for a few things that I've done. So you might think I'm crazy or whatever, but that's what actually happened. It's like I was told it was either my subconscious, my brain, some Pleiadians or whatever, I don't know, but that's how it happened.
Time travelers from the old Spanish Empire.
maybe.
All right, then. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll let you go there, and then we can have that last thing that you said was you questioning whether you were crazy or a visionary, and then we can come back and look at this later on and find out which one was true. But I personally think it's a great idea, and I really hope it catches on.
We'll see. We are just trying to be very rational and objective with this, and if it works, if it works, then great, because we really like the concept, and if it's one of those things that we think that if it fails, something very similar will be will exist at some point.
Yeah.
I think it makes so much sense to have a dedicated brand of money for this particular use case.
Yeah, I mean, even Satoshis weren't an original part of Bitcoin. They were sort of conceptualized later. The unit itself was, but the name wasn't. All right, Alex, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on Bitcoin Bridge, and please do drop in again next time we've got something big to talk about.
Thanks for having me, John. We'll discuss the next feature that we will implement, the fiat ramps, in your show in about 2 months or so.